Yes, absolutely. We do have a brand new project right now. It's in the Houston Ship Channel in Deer Park. And it is a partnership with Impex Corporation of Japan, who is the largest E&P company from Japan, a large supplier of LNG and coal and other energy products into Japan. Air Liquide, a very large industrial gases company globally. And the project will be hosted in the Vopak Exolum site. And as you all know, Vopak is a globally recognized, logistics and storage
Yes.
company,
Yeah.
as well as Exolum has a big operations in Europe. The facility will make 1.1 million tons of ammonia, and it will be utilizing Air Liquide's ATR technology, which means that about 95 to 98% of the CO2 will be captured and permanently sequestered. So it will be a very clean ammonia facility.
Welcome to an episode of Strategic Conversations. We host insightful discussions with top business leaders and top business minds. Today, we are hosting Mr. Jakob Krummenacher, the Vice President of Clean Energy at LSB Industries. Mr. Krummenacher will be a speaker at the Houston Strategy Forum's upcoming fifth semi-annual Carbon Hydrogen Symposium. I have been having a great discussion with him already, and you need to come listen. This is amazing, the insights that he's going to share. I'm Ravi Kathuria, the president of the Houston Strategy Forum and author of the management and leadership book, How Cohesive is Your Company, and author of Happy Soul, Hungry Mind. Strategic conversations are hosted by the Houston Strategy Forum. If you value these conversations, please hit like and subscribe to the Houston Strategy Forum's YouTube channel. Today's episode is sponsored by Cohegic, a management consulting and executive coaching firm. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to a great discussion with Mr. Krummenacher. Jakob, thank you for taking the time to be here in this strategic conversation, and I am just excited to host you May 15th. I can't wait for my audience to listen to what you have to share. Sir, at the very top, let's start with you sharing with us what is LSB Industries, what is its scope, so that we can get a sense for the company.
Thank you for having me. Looking forward to May 15th as well. LSB Industry, for those who don't know, is the fourth largest ammonia producer in North America. We currently own and operate 3 ammonia plants in Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Alabama, and make a total of a little less than 1 million tons of ammonia per year.
Wow.
We also turn about half of our ammonia, we turn it into downstream products like nitric acid, ammonium nitrate, and UAN. LSB Industry has been a public company for the last 50 plus years. Prior to that, it was a conglomerate of smaller, different businesses. But over time, it kind of narrowed its focus into the chemical industry and ammonia production, like we are today.
Yes. And you know, very interesting company. Congratulations for being around for 50 years. You have a very interesting project that is pre-feed in combination with a few other industry players that you're going to build on the Houston Ship Channel. I would love for you to share that because it's a low carbon ammonia plant and it's of great interest. And I would like to discuss that further on May 15th.
Yes, absolutely. We do have a brand new project right now. It's in the Houston Ship Channel in Deer Park. And it is a partnership with Impex Corporation of Japan, who is the largest E&P company from Japan, a large supplier of LNG and coal and other energy products into Japan. Air Liquide, a very large industrial gases company globally. And the project will be hosted in the Vopak Exolum site. And as you all know, Vopak is a globally recognized, logistics and storage company,
Yeah.
as well as Exolum has a big operations in Europe. The facility will make 1.1 million tons of ammonia, and it will be utilizing Air Liquide's ATR technology, which means that about 95 to 98% of the CO2 will be captured and permanently sequestered. So it will be a very clean ammonia facility.
Oh, how wonderful. Do you know if Air Liquide has made a decision on where will they ship the CO2? Where will they sequester it? Is it going to be in a site that is close to the ship channel? How is the CO2 aspect being managed?
Yes, that is right. Air Liquide will utilize their own cryogenic technology to separate and turn and liquefy the CO2.
Okay.
But then the CO2 is going to be sent over via pipeline to a sequestration hub. And there are a handful of them being developed within the 5 to 10 mile range, all of which have already applied for Class 6 permit and are in the middle of getting that approval process. So hopefully by the time the facility is in operations in late 2028, beginning of 2029, the permit will be already in place, and we already have a partner that can take care of the CO2 for permanent sequestration.
Ah, wonderful. I want to talk about the ammonia aspect. Ammonia has been around for a long time. It has applications in agriculture, it's fertilizer to industrial processes. But recently, the focus on ammonia has been as a hydrogen transportation mechanism, right? Hydrogen carrier, hydrogen itself being the lightest atom in the universe is very difficult to transport, right? To condense and transport, to liquefy. Ammonia could be a great carrier for that. What are the advantages or the pros and cons between transporting hydrogen or transporting using ammonia as a carrier versus the traditional method of using LNG, which is, methane, you CH4 and you liquefy it and move it. How do you compare these? Where does ammonia provide an advantage? And what is the risk with ammonia?
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for that, Ravi. And you're absolutely right. I mean, hydrogen is a very difficult molecule to handle. It's the smallest molecule in the world. It can leak from everywhere. There is a reason why the world today makes 75 or 80 million metric tons of hydrogen per year, but all of it is made and consumed on the same location.
Yes.
So there is no need for transportation or even storage of hydrogen at this point because it's difficult. So ammonia is not so difficult. I mean, the world makes 200 million metric tons, and about 20 are shipped around the world. So it's so much easier to handle than hydrogen. When you're looking at ammonia as a energy source, which is there's two trains of thought about utilizing ammonia for energy in the world going on right now. One of them is Japan and South Korea. They're looking to bring in low carbon ammonia and then replace coal with ammonia at their coal-fired power plants. And essentially they're going to commingle the ammonia with coal and burn it and utilize the energy content of the ammonia. No further chemical change will be required. Europe, on the other hand, they're thinking about bringing low carbon ammonia and then cracking it back into hydrogen so that they can utilize their existing pipeline network and distribute the hydrogen and then use the hydrogen as the energy. I mean, both of them has pros and cons, but the biggest pro for the Japanese and South Korean view is that the more steps you add into the chain, the less energy you end up with, right? So if you start with solar and wind energy all the way up here, and you turn that into hydrogen by splitting water, which, by the way, is an incredibly energy-intensive process. Then you end up with hydrogen. Now, well, I need to ship it around the world, but I can because hydrogen leaks out of everywhere and it's hard to keep in the liquid phase. So the idea is that, well, I'll turn it into ammonia and then I can ease up on the transportation. Sure, but now my energy content went down a little bit now. And now if I ship that ammonia around and I want to crack it back into hydrogen, probably Europe will end up with about 20% of the energy from the sun and the wind in the US. As when all is said and done, after you split water, turn the hydrogen to ammonia, ship the ammonia, and then crack it back to hydrogen because of all the steps that you are adding.
Yeah.
Having that said, though, ammonia has huge advantages compared to LNG when it comes to shipping energy around. For example, one of them, and the biggest one, is that LNG is no carbon free.
Yes.
LNG has a carbon molecule in it, and it would be very difficult to make any meaningful quantities of LNG utilizing, biogenic CO2 or biogenic sources of carbon. They're expensive and not fairly abundant today, right? So
Yes.
ammonia, once you make it, is a carbon-free molecule, and it will be shipped around as carbon-free. And if you can get vessels that run on ammonia, then even the transportation will have zero emissions
Yes.
when you're shipping that ammonia around. Another advantage of the ammonia is that it doesn't ignite as easily, right? LNG can call, you gotta be careful, right? It's a fuel concentrated, pressurized, in the presence of oxygen and a high temperature and ignition source, you can get explosions or fires.
Yeah.
Ammonia, not so quickly. Ammonia needs a very high ignition temperature in order to get it to combust. The cons of ammonia is the highly toxic, right? An
Yes.
ammonia release, once released into atmospheric pressure and temperature, it wants to go into the vapor phase, so it will create this ammonia cloud that is green. And if people were to breathe that, it could be fatal.
Mm.
So that's a concern. And that's the reason why when you look at an ammonia tank, they all have this water piping around it.
Yes.
In case there is a release of ammonia from the tank, then that water spraying system gets activated and dilutes all of the ammonia that's being released and sort of watering down the ammonia. And when it comes down, essentially, it's going to be a low-grade type of nitrogen fertilizer that is spilled at the end of the day.
And what happens when you use ammonia to either to split the hydrogen part or use it for producing energy? Does it produce greenhouse gases? Is nitrous oxide, is that the right NOx term? I'm not a chemical engineer, but is that dangerous to the environment? As dangerous as CO2? Where does that stand?
So the answer to that is depends. How are you extracting the energy from ammonia, right? If you're using a fuel cell type of technology, like a company called Amogy from New York are doing right now,
Yes.
um, that's a very low temperature process. So there is no enough energy for the oxygen in the air to react with the nitrogen from ammonia or from the air and create NOx. So there will be a NOx-free environment, essentially an emission-free environment.
Yes.
There's another company called Mainstream. They have a single piston power generation unit that operates at about 500 C. And in that low of a temperature, they create very little NOx, almost nothing. Now, if you're looking at what Japan and South Korea are trying to do, where they're going to, add 20% ammonia to coal in
Yes.
a coal-fired power plant in order to generate electricity, those temperatures are much higher. And there would be a creation of NOx and N2O. Now, interestingly, and we do have a couple of customers that own coal-fired power plants in the United States, and they purchase ammonia to use it as a NOx reduction agent. They do that in a SCR or stellaric catalytic reduction process, where ammonia is added to the exhaust of the coal-fired power plant, and then the N2O and the NOx are further reduced into oxygen and nitrogen. So
Yes.
essentially cleaning up that exhaust emission from any NOx or N2O. So it's called N2O reduction. Similarly, all diesel trucks that are operated in the United States and Europe today, they do the exact same thing through a reduction of NOx with urea. They use liquid urea on board, and a little bit of that liquid urea is injected into the exhaust, run over the catalyst, and do SCR, and
Yes.
essentially no NOx or N2O at all.
Hmm.
Why urea? Because ammonia is toxic. So, liquid urea is much easier to handle, and you can just pour it into the tank and move on. Ammonia will be an issue if you had a spill on a truck going on off-road, on roads, for example.
Very interesting solutions. And at the Houston Strategy Forum, we don't use the word energy transition because it's a little, I find it limited. We call it energy evolution. So, as I think about energy evolution for the world to avert both the energy crisis and the climate crisis, your company talks about a low carbon, right? Sustainability. You are the vice president of clean energy, and in our previous discussion, you have shared about. I guess you have a plant in Arkansas, El Dorado, right? And at that plant, you're looking to reduce the carbon footprint. I would love for you to talk about that because this question, you alluded to these diesel trucks who are able to reduce their carbon emission, their CO2 emissions. And on a plant, how you're doing that. And you had also mentioned about this technology that might capture CO2. I'd love for you to share that. I think that's quite exciting whenever it comes to fruition.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a ammonia plant in El Dorado, Arkansas. It's our largest today, about 500,000 tons of ammonia a year. That facility uses a SMR, a steam methane reformer. And in an SMR, about 60% of the emissions are from the process side,
Yeah,
which is high purity CO2 because you're basically taking methane in and you're stripping the hydrogen off to
yes,
react it with the nitrogen and make ammonia. And then
right,
that carbon molecule ends up in CO2 or of a very high purity, usually about 98% or so. The other 40% or one third of the CO2 is actually combustion CO2 from burning nat gas in order to generate the heat and make the chemistry happen.
right.
So we're taking the 60%, the high purity CO2, we're partnering up with a company called Lapis Energy. They're a CCS company. They submitted our Class 6 in February last year. Everything is going well, and we're hoping to have first injections in the first quarter or second quarter of 2026. What they're going to do, they're going to take that 98% CO2 with the balance being water. They're going to compress it. They're going to do glycol dehydration, further compress it into the liquid phase, and inject it right on our property.
Hmm.
So that is very interesting. But what's even more interesting, and is coming down the road, maybe 10, 15 years from now, is technologies that can capture the CO2 from the flue gas.
Yeah,
I spoke last year alone, I probably spoke with about 15 different companies trying to develop this technology. They're all at different stages. Some of them are building pilot plants today. Some others are at a bench scale on a lab in some university. But a lot of them are working on developing these technologies. And this could be very revolutionary because if you can capture the flue gas,
yes,
all of a sudden now you don't need to change much. You continue to use your carbon-based fuels, you continue to use your existing infrastructure, you
yeah.
continue to drive your gasoline vehicles or diesel trucks, but you will do that with a significantly reduced carbon footprint because you are capturing the carbon from a lot of these facilities. And this could be really revolutionary on this evolution of clean energy.
I find that really fascinating because if that technology works, that could be a game changer. And I look forward to diving into that discussion with all of the speakers on May 15th. Jacob, I have a question for you. You are making significant investment in your plant in Arkansas. You're looking at, of course, the Houston ship channel plant. But
Yeah.
to create low carbon ammonia. Now,
Yes.
does that translate? Does that allow you to charge a premium pricing in the marketplace for your ammonia? Or is it that because you now have low carbon ammonia, it becomes a competitive advantage? There is no premium pricing, but customers say, well, I'll take this ammonia because it helps me. Where does that fit? Who are customers willing to pay? How much are they willing to pay? How does that fit? How does the economics work?
So the jury is still out, but the truth of the matter is that you need to have the entire supply chain involved. We produce ammonia today in our El Dorado facility, for example. We're going to add carbon capture sequestration. We're going to invest capital. We're
Yes.
going to pay OpEx in order to do this on an ongoing basis. So the resulting low carbon ammonia will carry a higher cost of production than conventional. Um, At the same time, a lot of our customers that use ammonia or downstream products are also concerned with the environment, and they all have sustainability goals. And they understand the value of this low carbon product to help them reach their low carbon goals of the future.
Yes.
The question is, at some point and at the end of that chain, there is an end user like you and me that has to be willing to pay that slightly higher price in order to enable this environmentally friendly supply chain. And that's an example. In Europe, in Spain, there's a company called Fertiberia. They're an ammonia producer, nitrogen fertilizer producer. They have a small electrolyzer making hydrogen, about 20 megawatt of electrolyzers. That it's going to be injected into the ammonia plant, and it's going to make about 20,000 tons of green ammonia per year. It's probably going to cost them twice as much as conventional ammonia. But companies like Heineken and that PepsiCo, for example, they're interested on their barley growers, for example, to using low carbon fertilizer to grow the barley, so that then Heineken can take the barley, make a low carbon beer. And that low carbon beer, they said publicly that if they charge an extra 10 cents a bottle of beer, that 10 cents will be more than enough to cover the cost in the entire supply chain. So, it will be very interesting to see experiments like this go out and see if people are receptive to something like this, because at the end of the day, a 10 cents higher cost of beer is really not going to break the bank for most beer drinkers. But it might make you happier if you're drinking a beer that it has a smaller carbon footprint and is better for the environment than the conventional.
That's quite interesting. Yeah. But it'd be interesting to understand consumer behavior on what happens if that truly becomes I can see an ad that some company could devise and make that right, and then people go in the bars, they go, look, I'm drinking. Should be interesting. Get economists to understand.
The other piece on this whole equation, which in the United States is still a big unknown, is whether the government is going to eventually institute some carbon tax or penalty or cap and trade or some mechanism in order to reduce the carbon emissions of various industries in favor of the low carbon products. And if that happens, then they add cost to conventional production, which then kind of levelizes more with the low carbon products.
Yeah. Jakob, I cannot wait to host you on May 15th at the Houston Strategy Forum. There is so much insight in what you're sharing. I hope people who are listening to this video will come visit with you in person. I mean, just imagine if you're having a one-on-one interaction with Jakob and all the other speakers in Houston Strategy Forum's unique format. That'd be such a powerful discussion. Jakob, what are you planning to share? What will be your message to the world on May 15th?
Definitely looking forward on May 15th and wanting to learn from others as well on their journey of energy evolution. I like that term very much that you used early on, simply because energy transition feels that is short-term and that is easy to do. And this is not going to be short-term, and it's not easy to do. In fact, it took us 120 years or so to develop the carbon-based society that we have today. And to think that, overnight you're going to transform that is just being naive. It's going to take time, it's going to take money, and it's going to need to involve all of the parties on the supply chain. So very much looking forward to sharing with others what we're doing and also learning from them about their different ventures.
Wonderful. So wonderful. We look forward to hosting you. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you.